Thanks for hosting these. I think it's really important for the sport. Happy to answer questions at any time. And if people also are watching this after the fact and want to reach out, happy to answer questions at any point. My email is easy to find on the Princeton website. My name is Dustin Litvak. I go by Dusty to most people. I've been coaching water polo for a very long time. Currently the head men's water polo coach at Princeton. I was previously assisting with the women's team, but that stopped this year. But I've coached at all levels. So both the club level from 10 and unders all the way through 18 and unders, both boys and girls. Assistant coach at the college level, D3 and D1, head coach, obviously now at D1 at Princeton, and also some time with Team USA and the junior team and youth team. So want to definitely try to meet everybody where they're at. And as I go through the presentation, of course, if some of it needs to be explained further, like I said, you can ask now at any point. Don't need to wait to the end. Or again, if you want to reach out after the fact, those you're watching it later on. So let me share my screen here. I'll get right into the two topics that I'm going to be discussing tonight. Give me 1 second. Okay. So the two things that I'm going to discuss tonight are game preparation and attacking different defenses. So real quick here on game preparation, something that's very important to me. I think the players that have played for me, and hopefully some of the coaches that have coached against me can recognize that our teams are pretty well prepared. And myself and my staff put a lot of time and effort into planning practices and preparing for upcoming games. This is something that I've learned a lot during my coaching career. Definitely learned a lot from Adam Wright, working with him at UCLA. I think he's one of the best at it. So just kind of running through a couple of things here. Reviewing our own games, of course, scouting upcoming opponents. Discussion with the staff of how we're going to attack different aspects of the other team, selecting the clips that we want to share with the team. We don't want to overload them. Implementation of how we're going to use those tactics and practices to prepare the team throughout the week. Game packets, a coach's game sheet, and a pregame meeting. So these are things I'm going to discuss here over the next few slides. And I think again, the players know when the coaches are prepared for the practices and for the games and when they're winging it. And I think they definitely are more focused, more engaged when they can see the plan is put in place ahead of time. So video review, I think video is one of the most important parts of our sport. So generally, when we're looking at our own games, we're looking at some of the deficiencies from the previous weekend, some of the strengths that we need to put different players in a position to highlight, maybe some lineups that did or didn't work. And we'll do a lot of statistical analysis with that and plus minus stuff, and just kind of seeing what groups worked well together, what groups didn't. When we're looking at our upcoming opponents, a lot of times the first thing we'll do is look at lineups, see which players are playing in different positions for the other team and how we're going to match up with that. And whether that means moving certain players into different lineups in our own team or in different sides of the pool in terms of how we want them to match up. We'll chart all of their plays. So we'll write out and get video clips of every scripted play that they seem to be running often: sprint plays, after goal plays, timeout plays, 6-on-5, etc. Then we'll look at their tendencies, both in their attack and on their the way they play defense. Again, trying to find some of their strengths as well as some of their weaknesses. And then, we'll look at potentially other teams that have played and had success against them, running different things and seeing how they defended those teams, how they attacked those teams. Again, what worked for them, what didn't, and see if there's anything that kind of fits our style and is similar to our team dynamic. And again, a lot of that works with the statistical analysis of the other team and seeing, when they run certain plays, maybe on 6-on-5, they have more success or less success, and how we can defend them to try to force them into situations where they're not having as much success. So those are the things that we're doing throughout the week, and I'll kind of talk you through a timeline on a future slide here. Other things that we're doing here is game packets. So for just about every opponent, we prepare game packets for our athletes, for our teams. Something that myself and my staff put a ton of time and effort into. And again, basically, the game packets can be anywhere from, I'd say the shortest we'll do is maybe 5 pages. Longest would be somewhere near 30 pages. That's a lot. Some of the things that are included in these game packets, the very beginning is kind of the cliff notes. We recognize that not all of our athletes are going to read the entire thing, especially the longer ones. So we're going to put the highlights right up front and make sure that at the very least, they're going to see exactly the main points we feel like they need to understand if we're going to have success in our upcoming game. We're also going to put different player profiles. So every player is going to have of our opponent will have their own paragraph or bullet points. Again, their position, strengths, weaknesses, what we feel like would work well against them. Their cap number, their picture will be in the packet as well. Uh, we'll also have phases of the game. So we will lay out for our team, what the other team is trying to do in transition, counterattack, what they're trying to do in their front court defense, their 6-on-5, 5-on-6, etc. And again, go into detail and what exactly we feel like we need to do to have success when attacking or defending. There are different phases of the game. Coaching cards, you can see my picture at the bottom there. I have the card in my hand. A lot of coaches are using these now. They, of course, look different for everybody, and what people use on the card is, what's important to them. I think, again, Adam Wright was one of the first ones to do this, and I think a lot of coaches do it now, but it's, most sports, other sports the coaches have cards. You see in football all the time, baseball, coaches are referring to a game sheet. So everybody's going to have something different. I feel like as a coach, you have to put the things on there that you feel like you need to refer to. I think when I was a younger coach earlier on, I felt like I could remember everything, but there's inevitably a moment in the game where whether it's during a timeout or you have to make a quick decision, and you forget something that you wish you had written down. So it is nice to have the game sheet to refer back to. Some of the things that I put on my coaching card will be lineups. So we have our different lines. We tend to sub 6 for 6. We're very fortunate to be able to do that. I know not every team can do that, but even if you're not doing that, to have kind of different lines, even working with during the week, matchups. So if we have players we want to match up with certain other players, making sure when, a player from the other team jumps in the pool, we have the right matchup in, subbing patterns. Then we're going to have specific groups. So like our best defensive group, the other team calls timeout. We need to get a stop. Who are the 6 guys or girls we want in the water? Same thing, our best 5-on-6 group. We need a goal. What play are we running? We have a 7-on-6 group, a 6-on-7 group. So these are all groups that we run through during the week. But again, it's easy then when that timeout is called or the stoppage of play for us to get in the exact group because it's right there written down. And we always have alternates just in case, of course, someone's in foul trouble. Yeah, sure, Tom.
Just curious with with your subbing patterns, and I get that you do platooning, I'm assuming kind of initially, or do you stay with that the whole game, or do you kind of get it like start, going with what you're seeing and putting together different lineups? How does that work for you?
Yeah, great question. So it's different game to game for sure, and it's different by weekend. If we're playing only one game on a weekend and we feel like we can, play certain guys longer minutes, that's going to be very different than if we're in a tournament setting and we know, we've got to get some guys some rest. But, basically, if we can stay with our lines for the first half, we feel pretty good. That's going to vary by foul trouble and by other things going on. And then by the second half, things tend to change a little bit and it is more feel of the game. Obviously, foul trouble plays a part. And guys that are having good games or maybe not playing as well in matchups and things like that. Who's in for the other team, who's in foul trouble for the other team. But typically, like I said, we try to stay with those lines in the first half if we can.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Absolutely. And then the last part of the game card would be the plays the other teams have been running. And we understand that a lot of teams will change their plays week to week, and you can't always predict, what they're going to go with. But if you have on the sheet again, their typical 6-on-6 timeout or 6-on-5 timeout plays, then when they call timeout, you can look at it and refer to your team and let them know, hey, this is likely what they're going to run, or check that one off. They already ran that one. They're probably not going to run it again. Let's look at this other one. And hopefully, how specific you want to be on your game card is up to you. But, if you have a picture and you can see where certain caps are lined up, then when they come out, you might already know what they're going to run. And if you've run it through practice with a scout team during the week, even the players will have a pretty good idea of what they're going to run before they've even started it. So again, just trying to keep as many things on the sheet as possible that we feel like would be relevant during the game, but it fluctuates for sure throughout the season. It gets more specific, as we reach the postseason and really are game planning for our upcoming opponents. Here's a sample timeline. It doesn't always work this way, of course, as nothing else does, but typically for us. So when I was at UCLA, we played basically one game a week. So it was a lot easier to prepare for our opponents. Now at Princeton, we're playing 3 to 4 games most weekends. It becomes a lot more challenging. But a typical week for us would be we have games on Saturdays and Sundays. So while we're playing those games, My assistants are recording any of our upcoming opponents, sometimes even further out, but at the very least the weekend before. So we have that all, set in our huddle account by Sunday night, if not earlier. So Monday we don't practice. That's our day off at Princeton. So that's the day that myself and my staff are reviewing all the film of our own team, upcoming opponents. So a lot of film watching for us on that day. And then we're going to meet and start to discuss what we've seen from our own film and what we've seen from our upcoming opponents to how we want to build the practices that week. What skills and drills we want to include, and start to think about the game packets. Tuesday, really, we just focused on ourselves in training. So a lot of the things that we felt that we weren't very good at the weekend before or need to fine tune, we'll watch film of ourselves and try to, again, attack that. Wednesdays, we start to attack or really think about our upcoming opponents. So we'll start to introduce some film of the upcoming opponents on Wednesday, and try to focus on how we're going to defend or attack them in our training. Thursday's training is almost all on our upcoming opponents. Again, in a perfect world situation, we would watch, before practice, 20 minutes of the other team 6-on-5, and then that would be our focus that practice, or 20 minutes of the other team's counterattack, and that would be our focus. But it doesn't always work that way. You got to make the best of what time you have. And then Friday is really just fine tuning everything, reviewing, final film review, showing them maybe the after goal plays or something, just to, again, trigger their minds when they see a line coming in. And then on Saturday and Sunday, we have our pregame meetings, usually an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes before the game. The players all bring the game packets with them, or they have it on their phones or iPads. And we'll go through it, not word for word, of course, but we'll talk about the key points of the game, talk about our potential matchups, lineups, things that we really feel like are really critical and really important, and make sure the players all know are really dialed in on what we need to do to have success during that game. So that's the basic part of that in terms of game planning and preparation. I'm going to move on here to the second part, which is attacking different defenses. Again, happy to jump back into game planning and preparation at any point if questions come up. But there are a lot of different facets to attacking different defenses. So I want to move to that portion. And we're going to talk about attacking a press, attacking traditional zones. What I mean by that is a 2 or 1 player zone, like a piston zone, 2-3-3-4, 2-3-4, or something like that. Splitting zones, we'll get into that. Trapping zones as well. I think with all this, there's no, one right way to do everything. So if there's something that I don't mention here that you do that works for you, keep doing it. It definitely depends a lot on your opponents and their strengths and weaknesses. But I don't think there's a one size fits all for any of this. I can just kind of share, in my experience, what's worked for the teams that I've coached. I think it's important, that players are allowed some creativity. So when we're going through how we're going to attack different defenses, we want to understand what the basic principles are, what is absolutely necessary, that are kind of non-negotiables. And then, of course, where the freedom is and where the creativity can come in. And of course, if you have certain players that are exceptional in certain ways, you don't want to put them in a box or pigeonhole them. You got to give them space to work. No matter what, two things, spacing and structure are critical. And that would be if I was going, thinking about coaching back at, 10 and unders up through 18 and unders. But even in the college game, you just see so many teams that are out of balance in their attack, and it really takes away opportunities to attack these different defenses and also leads to a lot of trouble in transition the other way. So we'll talk a lot about spacing and structure. And then while this presentation is about tactical emphasis and how tactically as a team we would attack these different defenses, I can't stress enough how important the technical skills are. So if the teams can't pass, if they can't catch, if they can't release, if they can't drive properly, or again, just the basics of the game, none of this matters. So really a lot more emphasis early in the year has to be put on the technical skills to build into the tactics. And then, as you go through the season and start to watch more film and really emphasize all these things in practice, you'll see a lot of progress. So we'll start off with the press, which is the basic defense. One of the first obvious things I like to tell the team is that if we're playing a team that loves to press and is really good at the press, they can't press you if you're up in transition. So the easiest way to break a press is try to get an advantage in transition. Then they're going to be helping back either on the open player, or if your center is gaining position right away, they have to help back at center and they can't press. But we also understand that doesn't always happen against teams that are, again, really good at pressing. So what I like to tell my teams is, if we're playing against a team again that likes to press hard, release before half, get the ball out before half, extend their press. The one thing we know is that if we can string together live balls, what I mean by that is that there are no fouls happening. Their defenders are further away from their center. It's harder for them to crash back or drop back once our center gets positioned. So if we can get the ball out of the goal a little earlier, also shorter passes are easier against the press. Long passes, while I'm not going to say never, can be tougher and lead to steals against a team that's good at pressing. Um, it's really important that as I think about technical skills as well, that we teach players how to draw fouls against the press. There's a lot of players who think by putting their head in the water and letting go of the ball that they're going to earn a foul, and that doesn't always work. Of course, it depends on the officiating, but how the proper way to try to make a water polo move, to sell the fact that they're going to try to make a pass or turn their opponent or whatever it may be, is a better way to earn a foul. And then again, give themselves a free pass, which is easier to break the press. Once we arrive in the front court, I want you to just quickly look at the drawing. And my first time using this clipboard, so hopefully I did it all right. But this new rule with being able to go inside the two is really important. So I think the spacing here is something I really want to point out. Really making sure that, and this may be exaggerated, of course, but that 1 and 5 are wider than 2 and 4. Too often, positions 1 and 5 are pinched in, and there is nowhere to drive. And it's really easy for defenders to do two things at once, which is the cardinal sin, in my opinion, of playing offense, is allowing a defender to do two things at once. You'll notice up top, there's a triangle. So position 3, the point, is the highest player. And this is so important because, again, there are so many times at every age group where position 3 pinches in is in the same line as 2 and 4. And again, this is very easy for the defense. So really just trying to maintain structure and spacing is important. Once we arrive in the front court, maybe we countered into a 4-2 and we balanced out into a 3-3. At this point, against the press, we have to have immediate movement. The easiest thing to do is sit. And again, the teams that are good at pressing are usually physical, strong teams. They like to hold, and referees are going to make the call if there's movement. But if you're not trying to move, it's hard for them to make the call. So that's really important against the press. Our center has to try to take position and maintain position on the 2-meter line. If for whatever reason your center cannot do this, then someone is going to have to post up. We're going to have to move into what we call havoc, which is like a rotating offense, a constant drives, ball side drives, or look for a mismatch, again, to post up. So if we can't ever get position at center or on a post up, it's going to be really tough to break the press. So these things, again, are how we want to attack it. Thinking about our perimeter players, and this is where, again, the skill work comes in, the tactics, the technical skills. So players working together to release, to drive, or set picks in order to move the ball from side to side. So if your center takes position to the 4-5 side and the ball's stuck on the 1-2 side, and we'll watch a video clip of this in a minute, it's so important the opposite side is able to release for, again, what we call live entries. Now, I say that here without being fouled, so I want to clarify that. The player who's being pressed, trying to reverse the ball to the other side, can be fouled. But as the ball reverses, we don't want the ball to be fouled, generally speaking. And I know the new rule outside 6 makes this easier on the offense, but a live entry is usually trouble for the defense, especially if the live entry comes from the wing. So timed releases with eye contact. And this is something that we spend a lot of time on because a lot of times the player who's doing the releasing puts out a lot of effort releasing, but the passer's not ready to pass. So it's wasted energy. So getting these two players on the same page, if the ball has to go from 2 to 4, so important. And then again, our goal is to try to get in from the wing if possible. Never, we talk about the offense never panicking or rushing against the press. Never trying to make a pass on their back or opportunity for someone to hit their elbow. Again, turnovers on the perimeter lead to counterattacks the other way. So if we don't have it and we've tried, we'll dump the ball in the corner and we'll try again. But we're not just going to force anything here, or we're going to lead to the opponent getting a counterattack opportunity the other way. And then again, if we can't open by driving, I mentioned this earlier, by releasing, driving is so important. And it's the way these athletes drive. And we'll see an example in a little bit, but a lot of times we'll say to the athlete, you need to drive. You can't get open by releasing, you need to drive. And what they do is they just drive from point A to point B, and this doesn't do anything. So every drive has to be with the thought of, I'm going to score. I'm going to get inside water without an offensive foul. I'm going to get inside water on my opponent. I'm going to score. Excuse me. And what this does, if nothing else, is hopefully change the complexion of the defense. And we'll see an example later. If position 3 or 2 were to drive and X1 had to come off their man, well, this allows the pass to go to 1. Maybe for an entry, maybe for a shot. So here's a video. This is one of our games from earlier this season against UCLA. Obviously, an extremely good team. They won the whole thing. We'll watch this here. So we have the ball here on the 4-5 side. Center's facing 1-2. So ball comes over, live entry. Okay. So again, that's what we're looking for here. Okay, as we're building into these things, as we're working with our team, is the ability to do this. And again, understanding that there's a lot of time on the clock. It may not happen in the beginning of the clock, but to keep going until the end to try to find opportunities again to reverse the ball for live entries into the center. Most of that time is going to lead to some sort of exclusion, penalty, or goal. So we get into traditional zones, and again, some examples here on the right: 4-5, 3-4, 2-3, 2-3-4. These are just 2-3 player, could be even a one player tradition, piston zones. So a couple things we talk about here. Again, maintaining spacing and balance. We'll talk about this all the time. There has to be room to drive. When the team is in a zone, there's no ball pressure. So again, the driving is important, but it's the timing of the drive, and we'll talk about that in a second. Centers have to work back against the zone. So if the team is up here on the right here, hopefully you can see my cursor, in a 4-5 zone, the center's got to work back, pushing away, spreading out the zone attack. Obviously, if they're in a 3-4, again, work back, so on and so forth. Our zone attackers should keep the ball up in a shooting position. They should be have the ability to shoot at any time, keeping the goalie honest, keeping the zone blockers honest as well. They also have to keep vision to the other side. A lot of times they're only staring at one thing, the goal, the center, and they forget that there's a lot of movement on the other side. And it's really important that if a drive opens up, we can find that drive. So that's kind of what I move into here in the next bullet point. So the opposite side of the ball. So again, this top example in a 4-5 zone attack could be the 1, 2, or 3 position. As they're driving, they need to be active, but they cannot commit an offensive foul. We have an opportunity here to play for a ball for our center or get a shot from the outside. So we're going to get something out of this. It's not like against the press where we might end up dumping the ball. We're probably going to get something out of this, so we can't get an offensive foul. Excuse me. Um, when we drive, like I said before, we drive to score to hopefully open up someone else. If we drive and we're not open, immediately we have to clear out. We don't want another defender to hang out in front of the center. Okay. The other thing that's really important when we drive against the zone is that when we drive, the opposite side stays down. And I'll get into this. I'll show some videos that'll explain this better and some animations that'll explain this better. But really important. So in this top 4-5 zone attack, if position 2 was to drive against a 4-5 or a 3-4 zone, we do not want position 1 to rotate right back up. We want them to stay wide. They can come up a little bit to 5 meters with the ability to drive again backdoor, but we do not want them rotating all the way up to where 2 is and rebalancing. And the reason for that is we want to give space for position 3 to slide all the way over to their left and then 4 to slide middle. Again, this opens up the zone, potentially for a pass to the center or a shot. Okay. Again, on the side of the attack, so on the 4-5, we're attacking a 4-5 zone. A lot of times what happens is the end of the clock is approaching. Position 4 has the ball. They're attacking forward for the center, and position 5 will start to go to defense, thinking they have to cover because the shot clock is about to go out. This is a mistake. If you do that, your defender at X5 is either going to go straight to the center, allowing 4 to press the ball, or your defender X5 is going to press the ball. Now we have no shot. So the side of the attack has to stay disciplined. The opposite side will cover to defense. And then play to the end. I think it's, again, players get antsy. Most teams, even at the college level, as they're in a zone defense and the shot clock's starting to expire, they think someone's going to shoot it and they race out and the center opens up. So the center has to work to the last second. We can cover for the center if they're down in transition. Not too far, but we can cover for them down a little bit. But we can't forget as zone attackers to keep playing a ball, because also referees love to call exclusions at the end of the clock when a ball comes in. So this stuff is really important. Okay, so we'll look at here now, breaking this down a little bit further. So when we're attacking a 4-5 zone, typically we're telling our players to drive from position 2 or 3. We're attacking a 3-4 zone, okay, drive from 2. All right. And then we could talk about the opposite, but it's pretty much just the other. If we're in a 2-3, we would drive from 4. On any of these, you can also post up. So if it doesn't work, the drive goes through, it doesn't work, we can post up, move into a 4-2. That's also another option if there's a mismatch on the other side, or again, you're not able to open up something greater. So this animation here at the bottom is going to be an example of a 4-5 zone attack. Play this here. So ball goes down to 5. You see the drive from 2. Okay. So what I want you to see here is when 2 drove and then eventually went out, One did not rotate all the way up. Excuse me. This allows space for three to slide to their left, and now four can attack for a better angle, but also makes X4 and X5 cover a lot more space to both help the center and take their shot blocking lanes. This is a much better shot for position four to shoot cross cage than if they were stuck over here. If X3 was to split here, there would be options as well, but we're not talking about splitting zones just yet. Um, Again, the timing of the drive is critical. Generally, we like to drive when the ball's down at five. So if there is an inside water play, it's an easier angle from five, but it doesn't always have to be that way. Okay. So here we can see, again, a 2-3 zone. We're going to have a drive from 3 or 4. 2-3-4 zone, you could have no drive for sure, or again, driving from 2, 3, or 4. And typically, in this position, we're either going to try to drive their center through, which is normally X3. Yeah, Tom, in 1 second, or we'll try to drive our worst shooter through. Yeah, Tom.
I was curious if is there any time when you need to drive off the, like drive from four across, or
Yeah.
is it okay?
Yeah, I'm no, go ahead. I think it's definitely something that some teams use as a tactic. We don't generally do it, but we've done, there is opportunities to do it if the other things are not working. Most of
Okay.
what we're doing here is trying to, again, try to, maintain some sort of balance with it. But absolutely, there's nothing wrong with drive. If, let's say they're in a 4 or 5 zone, driving four across, and seeing what happens. Now, what I will say is if a player gets driven across and their defender just sits in front of the center, you're going to have to rebalance. It's
Yeah.
going to be tough at that point, but absolutely that's an option. There's no question.
Is
So
it because of your athletes that you have? I mean, if you have somebody that can be that kind of threat up top, then you don't need to drive them. Like you'd rather have them be up top anyway. So
yeah, that's
yeah,
definitely one reason. It could be if you have a lefty at 4, you don't really want to drive them across
yeah, okay,
necessarily. Um, but again, I'm not saying at all don't do that. I've definitely played against teams that do it. It does, can cause problems and it does open up options. So that is another option as well. Typically for us, we tend to drive again if it's a 4-5 or 3-4 from 2. If it's a 2-3, from 4, and that's just how we've kind of done it. Again, and what's important, and I think the most important thing is we just want the players to be on the same page.
yeah,
Because if two players drive at the same time and now you have 5 players on the bottom line, you're in trouble in the transition,
yeah,
and you got to quickly try to bring someone back up. But there is absolutely, I think, a possibility for that too.
yeah. Cool.
Um,
Thanks.
Absolutely. So 2-3 zone attack. We'll watch the animation here. So again, position 4 drove through. Again, you saw center work back. 5 slid wide. Okay, and this one opened up a center entry. So again, by 4 driving through, 5 staying down a little bit, towards that 5-6 meter line, and getting 3 to slide over, this also allowed 2 now to have an easier entry angle on their center pass. And we'll see an example of the opposite side of this, but something similar in a second here. So here is same game, but UCLA attacking us on a good 3-4 zone attack. And one thing that is so important, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but is movement without the ball. So many players are stagnant when they don't have the ball in their hand. So we talk a lot about when we're doing our passing drills and shooting drills, uh, moving with the ball, but also I take a couple fakes on the goalie, I pass the ball, and then I slide to a new shooting lane. Oftentimes, zone blockers, when they go back into the center, they stare at the ball or they stare at the center and they lose track of their man. So if you move without the ball, you open up a shooting lane. And we'll see an example of UCLA beating us doing that here. So we're going to go into a 3-4 zone here. Ball goes down to 5. You see 3 slide over, open up a shooting lane. Okay. And again, oops, I didn't mean to do that, but just how they spread the zone out there. Really, really important, really nice. This is us against UC San Diego in that same MPSF invite. So this is us attacking a 3-4 zone instead of for a shot, though, for a center entry. So see here, we're able to get the ball over. Now, again, ideally, we won't want to foul there. Going back to press attack, if our player could have released for live entry, that would have been ideal. But we got him into a 3-4 zone. You'll see here position 2. Oh, I didn't know that ended. Okay. You'll see position 2 driving. 1 staying down. Again, number 15 staying down. So important. This is going to spread out the zone and now allow for center entry to center goal. Okay. And again, it's all the team being coordinated, understanding what our approach is supposed to be. Here's an incorrect attack. So this is us again on offense against the same team, and we're going to be attacking a 2-3 zone with no movement. So San Diego goes into a 2-3 zone. You'll see even X4 come here in the split. This is really dangerous. So even with 8 seconds left on the clock, we still would want our player at position 4 here to drive. That's plenty of time. And it's going to hold this X4 defender accountable. By not driving, we don't get to spread the zone. 3 doesn't get to slide over to his right like he should be able to. Ball goes in. Oh, sorry about that. X3 was too close. And again, steal happened. And if I'd let it go, you would have seen a counterattack goal the other way. One more example here. Okay, this is our game against UCLA again, going back to that. So again, shot clock winding down. So right here, 6 seconds on the clock, and we finally got him into a zone. So most teams would think it's too late, but we get a good drive from 3 here, and it's going to open up a cross pass to 1. So even this last second drive here pulls X1 off of his man, opens up. Luckily, our best shooter who can score from pretty tough angles on catch and shoot. So again, just kind of watching that one more time. A lot of players, that was not supposed to happen. Whoa. Did I lose you guys?
A question from Frank in the chat just says, how important is using a double post to attack zones? My players hate it because of space.
Yeah, good question. So again, everything's going to be based on your team. I do think that some teams go to it too often. I think we've been guilty of that in the past as well. It definitely takes away any potential to drive for the most part, and it makes the game a lot more stagnant. So if you have players that are really dynamic and good at driving, it does take that away. But I think it sometimes is necessary. Sometimes it is absolutely necessary if you just can't open anything up the other another way. And we'll get into this, especially when we're talking about splitting zones and trapping zones. That there are oftentimes you do have to go into a 4-2 or a double post to try to break the zone. And there are advantages of it as well in terms of giving the referees 2 different places to possibly call exclusions away from the ball and on the ball on entries. Again, for us, generally speaking, we're going to try to attack it by driving first and opening up the zone. And if that doesn't happen, then we may look to move into a double post or a 4-2 later in the clock. If that answers your question. If not, feel free to ask it again here. Okay, so real quick, does anybody know, I'm on Keynote here, the back button, is it just like, that's it? All right. So I just want to show this one more time. Again, just because I think it's really important because players start to panic at the end of the clock and they think everybody's got to cover to defense. But again, there's no reason. It's plenty of time here. We're going to be covered. Even if we miss this shot, you can see we have 2 of our white cap players up here ready to cover. There's no danger here. So that last second drive by Finn at position 3 pulls X1. Again, opens up the cross pass. Goalie stuck on the other side. Okay. We move into splitting zones here. So different examples of splitting zones, it could be a 1-person drop. So a 4 drop like this one here and 3 splitting. All right. Another example would be the other side. I didn't draw them all. Or there can be a 2-person drop in a split. So the one to the right of it here, 3-4 zone and 2 split. And then we'll get into the other ones that are, like Brescia, M zone a little bit later. So again, this is what we talk about as for our team. There's no one size fits all. I want to go back to that. If we're attacking a 4 drop 3 split, so this bottom left animation here, what we want to do is the opposite side is going to drive. So position 2 is going to drive, 3 is going to slide to the left, and this is going to make the splitter cover more space. So we'll watch this first animation here on the bottom left. So 2 drives again, 1 stays down. Okay, this opens up a lot more distance for X3 to split, 3 slides over, 4 can cover, and now we have a wide open shot. To the right of that, you'll see a 2-player zone. Okay, so a 3-4 zone with X2 splitting. Okay, when we do this, now the player who's being split off of is going to drive. So again, we're going back to this first one here. It was a 1-player zone, 4 back, 3 split. The opposite side drove. Now here it's a 2-player zone, X2 splitting. The player who's being split off of is going to drive. They could be wide open for sure. 3 can slide over, or we're going to see even another option here that happens often. Again, is if I can back it up a little bit, is you'll drive, the X1 wing defender will pick them up, and then we'll tell them to go across the goal, which opens up, again, opportunity for position one to step in to shoot it. If nothing else, if X2 chases all the way back down, we can always reverse the ball back over, rebalance, and go back to work for our center. So these are just different ways that we attack against splitting zones on our team. We talk about M zones, which are becoming way more common these days in Brescia. For those of you who aren't familiar with Brescia, it's very similar to an M instead of, as you'll see on the top photo, drawing the center defenders behind, the drop defenders in front. In Brescia, they're on either side. So when we're attacking an M, again, there's no one size fits all. Some teams will go 1 and 5 across and see if X1 and X5 will follow. So for instance, if one drove across and X1 followed 2, it could slide down. Some teams will drive from 2 or 4 and move into a 4-2. I think that's good. I think the important thing there is just work for both triangles. A lot of times team gets stuck just focusing on just their center or just the post up, and they don't reverse the ball side to side, which makes the goalie work and makes the splitters think more. Again, the biggest thing there is to use the time. Try to pull the goalie and the defense to one side before reversing it to the other, and really be careful about not shooting too early. So why teams run an M or Brescia? One reason just could be because you have a dominant center and they don't want the ball to get to your center, but often more common even is that they're trying to set up counterattacks. Because when you run an M or Brescia and you have players splitting, they have easy counterattack lanes the other way. And it's a lot easier to score, first line counterattacks, 1-on-0, nobody, 2-on-1, 3-on-2 than it is in a front court setting. So it's really important that you don't shoot too early and you try not to shoot from the top line. I won't say never, but if we can finish by ball to the center, again, remember what I said earlier, teams are very undisciplined and they race out late, the center opens up, or even from the bottom line, this is a lot easier to cover than if you try to finish from up top. With Brescia, where these two defenders on the bottom here are on either side, oftentimes if you get the ball down to 1 or 5 on the wing and try to have your center pin one of the two outside defenders on the high side, you can have a pretty good look on the inside there. Trapping zones, I know I might be running out of time here, so I'll try to speed it up a little bit, but I know we can restart if necessary. So trapping zone, again, teams are going to run a trap if you have a really good center or if they're trying to force you to shoot the ball from a certain side. So very common traps are 5 trap, 4 trap, okay, 2S, 3S, things like that. So this top here at 5 trap, if you see the ball as a position 2, the team is coming off of the same side their center defender's on. So they're trying to encourage us to throw the ball to 5 and then have the center defender jump that left shoulder, 4 and 5 press. Now the ball is stuck, and either we're shooting it at a bad angle over here. You see how what angle 4 and 5 are at, or we can't enter it. We have to dump the ball. That's what a trap is. Most people would think, well, that's a trap. Don't throw the ball over there, and that's incorrect. Okay, so what we want to do is get the ball over there early enough that we can get those guys out and then reverse it back over with the time to release or drive for a live entry. So getting that ball from 2 over to 4 or 5. And then reversing it back to 3 or 2 or 1 and in is going to lead to a lot of success. This is just a 2S for those of you guys that aren't familiar with what 2S is. Again, it's just another trapping. When that ball got stuck here at 4, someone at 2 or 3 needs to release immediately before there's pressure on the ball to get a live ball into the center. So again, just some of the things we're talking about. First of all, if your center can hold the left shoulder, they can't trap. It's impossible. If they can't, then we want to, like I said, get the ball to the trapping side early with time to reverse it. Our center wants to shift more towards the 2 post to create more space where the trapping defender has to slide over 2 and come off their player, which could open up a better shot. Again, moving into a 4-2 is always an option if nothing else works. But again, there's no ball pressure when that ball reverses, so a drive can be very effective. And here's an example of us playing against Harvard against a trap. So you'll see here Harvard, it's trapping. As soon as that ball goes to the 4-5 side, they're trying to repress. Center defender, left shoulder. Ball comes over, entry, and goal. And watch that one more time because that was pretty fast. So once again, they're coming off the same side their center defender's on. You can see it over there. The ball goes over. They try to repress. They do not a very good job of pressing on the 1-2 side, which they should have done. This allows us to reverse the ball to 1. Again, to defeat the trap.